The following program
is intended for adults only.
in compliance with copper regulations.
And it is not to be viewed by anyone under the age of 13.
So if you're under the age of 13 or even under the age of 18, it's time to go.
The following announcement has been paid for by Evanism World Order.
What you know about the ghost? The ghost stories that I'm about to tell. The ghost stories. Wake up and smell the coffee. The ghost can't stop me, 'cause there ain't no other that has got me than you. Right here, right now, it's time for us to go. Holy cow. What could ghosts really be? Ooh to the what? Ooh to the we. It's time for us to walk down and see what is going around. Some real ghost stories that I've experienced firsthand. And I'm hoping that you will understand that what I tell you tonight is true. I'm not gonna come here and lie to you. Mr. Scuzz, an undead guinea pig, and Voice Man, they're ready for Evan to bring about a new show. And we're about to go to the next plateau, and your mind will be blown. 'Cause this shit is supernatural. You see what's going on right now in our reality with the ghost stories. There's some real fucking ghost stories tonight on the show. Ooh, we gonna tell you about the real fucking ghost stories. The real fucking ghost stories. So thank you for liking the stream and sharing the link to the show. It's just only one place we can go to the start of the show. Talking ghost stories tonight. About to have the time of our afterlife. Right here tonight on this show. Ooh wee, I'm finna let you know. Ooh wee. Ooh. Are you ready? Are you ready right now to experience the truth? Ooh, the truth. Now, when I tell you tonight on the show, we are going to be talking about some real ghost stories that have happened to me in my life. All right? You know what I'm saying, Gary 20O? Gary 20O's in the house. Ooh-wee, oh, Voice Man, let's go, brother. Thank you, Voice Man. Oh, welcome to the show, Voice Man, Gary 20O, Undead Guinea Pig, and everybody watching this in the future. Ooh-wee. So tonight I have to start out by saying this. When I say we're going to be talking about some ghost stories, you have to understand what my definition of the word ghost is. In this context, in this situation. Because when I say ghost, it's a lot like saying the word UFO. To me, ghost and UFO are kind of very similar words. In the fact that when you see a UFO in the sky, you look up and you see that UFO, or you see some government footage of a UFO or civilian footage of a UFO. When you look up and you see that shit, you know that it's up there, but you don't know what it is. All right, when you see a UFO, you don't know if it's an alien up in the UFO. You don't know if there's a human from Earth up in that UFO. You don't know what the fuck is in that UFO. You don't know what the fuck that UFO is, but you know it's there. When you see one, you know it's there. All right, and guess what, y'all? Disclosure's coming this month. Get ready for it. Alien disclosure. We're going to do a future episode on the whole alien disclosure. The fact that we are not alone. We are not alone, but what I'm trying to get at here, hold on, I got to turn this music down a little bit. Spooky music in the background and shit. So anyway, the moral of the story is, when I say ghost, a lot of people think of a ghost, they think of it's a spirit, or it's someone who's dead that's come back from the dead or something, you know? But when I say ghost, and I say ghost stories, to me, ghost is like a UFO. It's like, you know it's there, you know it's doing something, but you don't for sure know what it is. So when I say ghost, I use that in a loose terminology that this could be a spirit, this could be a demon, it could be an alien, could be a leprechaun, could be a goddamn fairy. We don't know. We don't know, right? All we know is that this shit really happened, okay? That's all we know, is that this shit really happened. So the cool part is, I grew up on 2011 South 6th Street of Minneapolis, Minnesota, on the West Bank. And I grew up on, whoa, Gary 20, thank you, my friend. 111 Numinati. Ooh-wee, we're closer to the goal. If you feel like Streamlabsing, the link is in the description. I appreciate any donations you guys can throw my way, especially now more than ever. But yeah, so my house just so happened to be on a major ley line intersection point. And if you don't know what ley lines are an energy grid system that pulsates around the entire earth in a kind of like a spider web grid form. And so supernatural events are more likely to happen on ley lines, if you're on a ley line. But not only was my house on a ley line, my house was on a ley line intersection point. A major ley line intersection point where multiple ley lines were intersecting one another. So my house was a hotbed for supernatural activity. Okay? So, what was the first? I'll tell you about the first paranormal experience that I had in that house. I was just a little kid, and I had rented the movie Making Contact. And if you've never seen the movie Making Contact before, it's this scary-ass movie, one of the first movies by the director Roland Emmerich, who did Independence Day and Day After Tomorrow and all these fucking disaster movies. His first movie was called Making Contact, and was about this little boy whose dad died, and then he finds this possessed ventriloquist dummy who can, like, talk and move shit, and it's the scariest fucking movie. It scared the shit out of me when I was a kid. If you're into killer doll movies, look it up on YouTube. It's called Making Contact. You can watch it for free today. Ooh-wee. Alright? But so I watched this movie, and the fucking ventriloquist dummy scared the shit out of me as a kid. One night I was laying in my bed in my room, and it was pitch dark. And all of a sudden I heard this noise in my closet. My closet was just an open closet, and it was all dark. And all of a sudden I see the ventriloquist dummy from that goddamn movie. And it's like coming out of the fucking closet at me. It's like, ah. Oh, I wish I had a picture of the fucking dummy. Let me look up the picture. Let me look up the goddamn picture so I can put him on screen. You gotta see this guy. You gotta see this. I gotta put this up. Hold on. Alright.
You gotta see what this guy looks like, because he's scarier than shit, man. Let's see here. I mean, this is one creepy fucking doll, man. Here we go. Here we fucking go. Alright, come on. Hurry! Hurry, damn you! Okay, hold on. I'm downloading the image as we speak. Okay. Got it. I've got it. Alright. Check this guy out. This is what I saw in my room. And it scared the shit out of me. Here it is. Oh my god. Sorry this takes so fucking long. Why does it take so goddamn long? Alright. Where are you, little... Where are you? So I'm laying there as a kid, and I see this thing. Hey, Noah the viewer! Oh, Noah! And Tova! Oh, what's up, Tova? How you doing? And AW! 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 Oh, shit! I got you, my friend. Don't fuck that dummy in the closet story. Burn that bitch! Hell yeah. Hell yeah. So... This looks just like what he looked like. He was kind of like blue like that, translucent and shit. And he came out at me, and he was like, blah, blah, like making these noises and shit. And I was like, holy fuck. So whatever it was took the shape of that fucking dummy to scare the shit out of me, man. Look at that fucking thing. It's called Making Contact. Watch that fucking movie. Watch that movie, y'all. Ooh, that shit's scary. So needless to say, that's not the only shit that went down in that house. Okay, it was on a major ley line intersection point, and I'd be trying to sleep at night, and all of a sudden the cupboards would start banging. Boom, 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 boom. All right? And then one night I was trying to go to sleep, and the cat was on the couch with me, and I was laying there, and something else was in that room moving shit around. I didn't know what it was. But everybody who lived in that house and everybody who went into my house experienced supernatural phenomenon in that house. Ghosts and spirits flying around and all kinds of crazy shit. Because that's what happens at a major ley line intersection point. All right, it's crazy. It's crazy. So my cousin, he saw the shit. He saw the goddamn ghost. Hey, Rose Black, what up? So my cousin knew about the ghost, and so I had rearranged my room, and I had my cousin come over, and me and him are talking, and I was like, man, we really haven't seen that ghost in a while, have we? We haven't heard nothing from that ghost in a while. And my cousin was like, yeah, usually they get riled up when you change the room around and shit, when you move things around. And as soon as we said that, on my dresser, I had all these action figures set up. I had all these horror movie action figures. I had Chucky, Jason, Freddy, Austin Powers, the Gremlins. I had all these motherfuckers set up, including Beetlejuice. I had a Beetlejuice action figure sitting there on my dresser, and I didn't move, and he didn't move. No one in the room moved. And we mentioned that ghost. We said, yeah, we haven't seen the ghost in a while. And all of a sudden, my Beetlejuice action figure flies off of my shelf right at me. Just nobody touched it. Nobody went by it. Nobody moved. This was went boom! Boom! It just took off, right? And I was like, holy shit. Oh shit, you're watching this on the go, Rose Black? Thank you for tuning in. Holy shit. Rose Black's out there living life. Patrick Parent, what up? So of all the action figures they could have thrown across the room, when we mentioned ghosts, they picked the Beetlejuice action figure. In case you don't know, Beetlejuice is the ghost with the most. The goddamn ghost with the most. So needless to say, just like Ed Warren, you've heard of Ed and Lorraine Warren, who are from the Conjuring movies. The Conjuring 1 and The Conjuring 2 and The Conjuring 3 are all based on true stories, actual events that happened, actual documented events. And I suggest watching those Conjuring movies because they're pretty good. But there's a documentary on YouTube about the events of The Conjuring 2, like actual footage of the shit. It's scary as fuck. But Ed Warren, he grew up in a haunted house too. So that's how he got started in demonology and fighting off ghosts and spirits and all this shit. So anyway, so I grew up in a haunted house. And when you grow up in a haunted house and you're around ghosts, ghosts tend to know that you can perceive them, know that you can pick up on them, and so they try to communicate. They try to reach out to you. So let's see here. I got to list all my ghost stories. But hey, ghosts aren't all bad. All right? I've made friends with ghosts. Okay? I'm not scared of ghosts. And I don't try to fucking grab a cross and make a ghost go away, or I get scared and say, yeah, get out, demon. Get gone, you ghost. So that's why the ghosts are cool with me. Close personal friends with some ghosts, okay? As a matter of fact, one day, me and my friends were hanging out at this place called Scooterville, and it was this really haunted place. It was this old spice factory that they turned into artist lofts, and we had one of the studio spaces there, and we would hang out there and chill and party and whatever, meditate and shit. And so we were on like the 4th floor. But when you first came in this creepy-ass old building, they had a vending machine, right? So we came down and we were chilling in that room, and I was looking at the vending machine, and there was a footprint on the vending machine. And right behind the footprint, there was some kind of spicy candy, and it says, now with a new kick. And I said, wow, it looks like someone took that too literally and kicked the machine. And I was like, get it? Now with a new kick. And I kicked toward the vending machine, and I did not touch it. And instantly after my foot goes like this, the lock on the vending machine pops open. It just goes poof. And me and my friends are like, whoa, what the fuck? So I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was a ghost or what kind of supernatural shit happened, but I said, get it now with a new kick, and I kicked toward the vending machine, didn't touch it, and the fucking lock on the vending machine just springs open and the door opens. And we could get in there, and if we wanted, we could have took all the food out of there and the money and everything. So it was crazy. So it pays off to have some friends that are ghosts. Okay, let me just put it to you that way. Peter Jackson actually made a movie about that called The Frighteners. The Frighteners is a good Michael J. Fox movie where he plays a guy who can communicate with ghosts. So he makes friends with the ghosts and has them go haunt people's houses, and then he comes in and pretends to get rid of them. And it's a good movie. I suggest seeing it at least once. So yeah, anyways. So, and it's happened before, but a scary time. I'll start out with telling you guys a really scary ghost story. So me and my buddy, we went on a bike trip down the Mississippi River by the River Road in Minneapolis, right? And we're just trying to bike for a while to find a cool spot in nature where we could go smoke a smokable, right? We wanted to partake in a smokable out in nature somewhere, so we found this spot and we're like, hey, let's go down. Because see, there's the bike trail, and then there's all these woods until you get to the river, and there's all these woods you kind of go through, and there's a hill. So we parked our bikes at this random spot and went down these woods, and we got down to the shore of the river, and there was all this white sand. It was a white sand beach, which you usually only see a white sand beach in ocean areas. But this was right there in the fucking Mississippi River, and it was crazy. But so we started walking along the white sand beach, and we're like, hey, should we sit here and smoke and chill for a while? And my friend was like, nah, let's keep walking up a little ways. Let's see what's up here. Let's see what's up a little ways. So me and him start walking along the shoreline of the Mississippi River, and everything looked cool at first when we saw the white sand beach, but the farther we went, the more creepy and decrepit it started to look. And we got to this giant tree that was growing out over the river. It was like growing outward instead of up. It was growing outward, and you could sit on it. So me and him were sitting on this bench, we were sitting on this tree, and our feet were dangling like this because the tree was raised above the ground, so there was a space there for our legs to dangle. And so we started smoking a cigarette. We were just going to stop there and smoke a cigarette. I used to smoke cigarettes back then. And all of a sudden, I started smelling this really, really, really rancid, rotten egg smell. Like the worst fucking decrepit, fucking toxic, putrid, fucking decaying smell I've ever smelled. It was so fucking disgusting. And I smelled it, and I was just like, I brushed it off for a second. Then I looked at my friend, and I was like, man, did you fart or something? He was like, no, man, I was just about to ask you the same thing. As soon as he says that, me and him both scream. We're like, ah! A hand grabbed my right ankle, and then a hand grabbed his left ankle. And I jumped up. I was like, holy shit. And I looked behind us. Nothing there. Nothing there at all. And we looked underneath the fucking log. Nothing. I was like, holy fuck, did that grab you too? He's like, yeah, that grabbed me too. Then all of a sudden, we look around and we hear this noise all around us, like it's circling us in the woods, like circling around us, going everywhere, but we can't see anything. And so we were like, oh shit, let's get the fuck out of here. And we walked back up to the white sand beach. And I was like, fuck it, this beach is too cool, man. We got to sit here and smoke this smokable. So we sat there on the beach and smoked. And my friend was getting these weird vibes. And we stood up from the white sand. And there was like this evil face indented in the sand behind us, right? And so me and my friend started walking up through the woods to get back to our bikes. And we could hear this shit following us, like shit, like footsteps and all this shit going through the woods following us. And we almost got to the top, but there was this cliff. And I was like, wait, man, we got to come up. Come here. I was like, stand right here. And me and him stood there on the cliff. And I said, we got to stand here for a minute because we can't leave scared. Because if we leave scared, this shit's going to follow us. We don't want this shit following us home. And so me and him stood there with our backs to the shit and right by the edge of this cliff, and we heard all this scary ass shit happening behind us, and we didn't blink. And we got out of there and got on our bikes and left, right? So we thought, all right, that was scary, right? So I tell my dad, or I can't remember who I told. I told somebody about what happened, right? I don't remember who it was, but I was like, yeah, we found this white sand beach. And they're like, whoa, white sand beach? You guys went down to that white sand beach? And I was like, why? What happened? And he's like, oh, that's where these two dudes were murdered in cold blood, right where we were, right where that ghost grabbed us. Two dudes were murdered. There were two dudes down there, and I guess they were doing something inappropriate by the riverside. And there was this dude with a gun who was watching them and followed them there. And the dude with the gun shot them both in cold blood and got out of there. So two people were murdered right fucking there. And so that was scary. Because that was the first time I had a ghost actually reach out and touch me. That was fucking... And like I said, there was nobody there. And I felt the fingers and the hands clasp my ankle. And my friend felt it too. And yeah, it just so happens two people were murdered right there. So, that was fucking scary. That was a trippy experience. So my haunted house, I had to eventually move out because what happened, there was a giant storm in Minneapolis, one of the worst storms. It sounded like atomic bombs going off every time it would lightning. And lightning hit the tree outside my house for the second time. It was the second time lightning hit that exact tree. And the lightning went under the house, went into the cable wire to the cable TV, and it blew up my mom's TV and made all the electricity go out, and her TV started on fire. A giant fire started in my house, and two of my cats died. It was a horrible fucking experience. But it was like something out of a Final Destination movie. The way the lightning hit this tree and then fucking went to my house and blew the TV up and did all this crazy shit. Luckily, we did save two of the cats, or three of the cats, and we got everybody out alive. So that was a good thing. But I had to move into this other house because me and my mom and my grandma were homeless at that point. And so my cousin let us stay in their extra house. They had an extra house that they don't go into. And I soon found out why they don't go into this house. They got a really good deal on this house. And they didn't tell us about it, but we moved in and I slept in the upstairs. And I slept in this one room, but there was a room right next to my bedroom. And when you go in there, there was carpeting, and there was this giant red spot on the carpet, like a blood stain that just was not coming out. And they didn't do anything to get this blood stain out. And so I could tell something horrible happened in this house. And I would try to go to bed at night, and I had like a futon mattress thing on the floor. And one night I just felt this presence looking down on me, and it was like this little girl ghost, and she was just like looking at me, and it was creeping me out. She was like standing above me, looking at me, and I couldn't wait to get out of that fucking house. And my mom experienced shit like this. She experienced this specter coming down the side of the house and floating down. It was like this. It was something really bad happened in that house. See, the house I grew up in was haunted, but not by malevolent spirits. There were no malevolent spirits there. There were no, it wasn't like evil ghosts or like, but the shit that was going on in this house, this other house, that shit, something really bad happened there, and it left a mark on that house, and it was fucking bad. It was creepy. So luckily I got out of that house sooner or later. And so that shit was really fucking scary, because like a benevolent ghost is one thing, but when you're dealing with something that's malevolent, you can tell. And it seemed like there was a non-human presence in that house as well. But yeah, I guess most recently I had this really crazy occurrence where me and another person were sitting in separate rooms, but the rooms were connected, and my back was to them, and out of my peripheral vision I could see the room they were in and all that. And from where they were sitting, they could see into my bedroom. And what happened was, all of a sudden, I could still see everything in front of me. Everything in front of me was there, clear as day. But my entire peripheral vision of everything in the other room that he was sitting in disappeared. It went completely, it just got erased out of existence. And then it popped back into existence, and I turned and I was like, whoa, did you see that? And he was like, yeah. And then he describes, out of his peripheral vision, he was staring right at my room, and my entire room disappeared. So from my perspective, the room he was in disappeared. From his perspective, my bedroom disappeared. And so at the same moment in time, we both experienced reality literally disappearing. It was like something out of Stranger Things, like the Stranger Things show. And that's what Stranger Things, there's a lot of symbolism, a lot of 111 Illuminati symbolism, because that kind of shit was happening at my old house that I originally grew up in. Okay? Like I said, I grew up on the west bank of the river in Minneapolis by the U of M campus, and there was also this college called Augsburg, this religious college, and they were always trying to get my house. They were always trying to buy my land from my grandpa. They wanted the house so bad. They just kept giving us offer after offer after offer, and my grandpa would not sell it to them. Okay? But here's what was going on. This entire Augsburg College is a front for something bigger, something more underground. And they literally wanted my house and my land because they knew it was on a major ley line intersection point, and they knew that they could tear holes into other dimensions right there on that land, that they could actually cross the veil into other realities, and other things from other realities could cross into our dimension. So I have experienced some real Stranger Things style shit. I've experienced all of that, okay? And so the Stranger Things show is based on a lot of true events. But yeah, speaking of true events, I highly suggest that you watch The Conjuring Part 1 and 2, and Part 3 is coming out soon to HBO Max. It's going to be wicked, because it is based on true events. And like I said, you can see the incident that The Conjuring 2 was based on is actually a one of the most well documented paranormal cases in history. It happened in England, and you can see footage that the news actually went to their house while it was happening and covered the entire incident. And it's crazy shit. Like, the little girl, the little 12-year-old girl, would get possessed, and she would speak. This voice would come from her, but she would never move her mouth, and it would sound like this, like the worst, like gravelly, like nasty voice was coming out of this little girl, and she would never even move her mouth. And it's the type of voice that if you spoke in that voice for more than 10 seconds, your vocal cords would tear. So, I mean, and they called the cops. One night, this dresser flew at the mom, and they called the cops, and the cops got there, and they heard banging, and they saw a fucking chair fly across the room. And they checked the chair. There was no strings attached. None of this shit was going on. It was being faked. They came to the conclusion that it was real shit going on, and that's another case that Ed and Lorraine Warren eventually covered. So like I said, all of these incidents that I have had with ghosts, it doesn't mean that they were all one thing. It doesn't mean they were all spirits of dead people that were for some reason a ghost and whatever. A lot of these experiences could have been ghosts of humans, yes. Could have been a spirit, yes. But there's other things out there, all right? What you would call demons, or the reptilian alien empire. Demons exist, and non-human entities, as they're called, and other aliens out there. And like I said, there's even fairies and leprechauns and elves and shit like that in existence too, that can do a lot of this shit. Which is why a general rule of thumb with me is I never get scared by ghosts, no matter how scary the situation is. Like I said, it's easy for me to do that because I grew up in a haunted house. So that makes it a lot easier for me to, because it's just natural to me. It's just something, it's not supernatural to me, if that makes sense. So it's like, you know, I'm not shocked. So if you encounter a ghost or something you can't explain, try not to be scared. Try not to start reciting Bible verses or calling an exorcist. Because just because something exists that you cannot explain does not mean it's malevolent. All right? There are benevolent spirits of humans. There are benevolent spirits of animals and other non-human entities. There are benevolent entities that can exist on different dimensions of reality, physical densities. So if you see a ghost, don't jump to conclusions. Just like if you see a UFO, you shouldn't jump to conclusions that there's an alien inside of it that looks exactly like ET. You know, until you actually see inside the UFO and find out what it actually is, you can't really say what it is for sure. So, same goes with ghosts, right? So, now I'm going to open it up to the audience. Anybody watching this live, and this is a reason why all of you watching this in the future on the replay, you got to click the notification bell and make sure you're live for these streams. Because you can ask me questions. We're going to have question and answer time. Like I said, I've grown up around ghosts my whole life. If you have any questions for me about ghosts or the supernatural, now is your time. Unleash those fucking questions. I'll sit here and wait. I will sit here and I will wait. Okay. Anybody? Any questions? And I tried to rack my brain and make sure that these were the only ghost stories that I know about. I mean, one time my grandma woke up and she looked, and her cousin, I think it was either her cousin or her brother or her nephew, one of the three, was standing by her bedside, and he said, tell everybody I'm gonna be okay. I just wanted to say goodbye. She wakes up the next day to find out that he had died. That the person she saw that came to her and said goodbye and that he was going to be okay, he actually died. So, was I ever possessed by one? Oh, come on. Come on. You can't. I'm not one to kiss and tell. You know, there is consensual demonic possession. There is stuff like that. But what have I ever been possessed by a ghost? It's a good question. Not that I know of. Not that I know of. I'll put it to you that way. One time, though, and the reason I know that life outside of our body exists is because I've been in ghost form before. Now, there are a lot of near-death experiences where people leave their body. They leave their body and they hover above their body and they look down and they see it there. That actually happened to me one day. I was taking a nap on my couch and I went out of body and I could feel this thread tied to my belly button, and the farther I got away from my body, the more pain I could feel, a tug coming from my belly button. But I flew around the room and my cat came into the room and I actually possessed my cat and I could see out of her eyes. And she walked into the other room and then I went out of her. But it was so cool, I actually possessed my fucking cat while I was out of body. And so, yeah, it was astral projection. It was an out-of-body experience because what happened was, you see, in case you didn't know, I am Evan Lefavor. I am a direct bloodline descendant of Elizabeth Howe, who was the main woman in the Salem witch trials to be hung for being a witch. They murdered her for being a witch. The whole town of Ipswich and Salem blamed all their problems on Elizabeth, my relative, and they hung her for it. So I am from the Salem witch bloodline. Right? They even made a movie about me called The Covenant, loosely based on my story. But one day I was chilling with this shaman, and he's a real Native American shaman, and I was chilling with him, kind of training under him as much as I could while I was around him. And one day he's like, you know what? Through the power of nature... Wait. So I was over at his house, and he said, you know what? I'm going to tell you about this. It's called flying ointment. And I was like, flying ointment? What's this? And he said, flying ointment is this ointment that I know how to make. And you mix it all up together, and you put it on these certain parts of your body, and it makes you fly. It makes you leave your body and you can fly around and have astral projection experiences, right? So this shaman says, I'm going to give you permission to find this. I'm going to give you permission to find this, but all I can tell you about the active ingredient in flying ointment is that it blooms only in the moonlight. That's all I can tell you, is it blooms only in the moonlight. So a week later, I went on a camping trip with my friends, and we, on the way up there, my friend was like, hey, you ever heard of Jimson weed before? And we're like, nah, I never heard of it. And he's like, oh, okay. So he just lightly mentions it. And this is a ghost story too, by the way. Just stick with me. So we're trying to go to this place called the Kettle River in Minnesota, where I went on a school field trip back when I was 14 years old. I visited this place that's across the river from a state penitentiary, and it's this no camping zone, and we're trying to find the exact same spot that I used to go to. So this little town called Sandstone right next door. So we found this camping spot, and we smoked all our smokables. We smoked some salvia. We had some salvia on us, and we drank this bottle of Bacardi we had, and I was drunk, and I was like, fuck, we're gonna have to go into town and find some drugs tomorrow, man. And I just said that jokingly. I said, we gotta go into town and find some drugs tomorrow. So we wake up, pack up our gear from camping, and go to the small town the next day in Sandstone, this small little town, right? And we get out of the car to go... We get out of the car to go to the restaurant to have breakfast, and what is there in this small town but an ancient-ass pharmacy? A pharmacy that has been there since the 1800s. Since people first started living in these... Since people first started colonizing this area, this old-ass pharmacy was throwing out all this shit, right? And so we started digging. There was this giant dumpster outside the pharmacy, and there was like ancient cash registers and all these old drugs. And I looked in there and I found this can. It was an ancient can from like 1860 or something, and it was called Powers Relief. It was called Powers Relief. Right? And I was like, holy shit, I know what this is. Because I used to have asthma. And I somehow found out that there used to be an asthma medication that people used to light on fire, and they would breathe the smoke into their lungs, and it would help them with asthma. But they quit using it because it was making people trip the fuck out. It was a hallucinogen. All right? Not a typical hallucinogen, but I'll get into that later. So I was like, this is it. Holy shit, this is it. So I took the can, and me and my friend were feeling kind of crazy, so we opened up this ancient-ass can, and we took a rock, and we poured some of this powder. There was like powder in there, and we lit it on fire, and this ancient-ass tin that was never opened from like the 1860s, and we're fucking lighting it up, and the smoke was like possessed. It was like a genie escaping from the bottle, and the smoke would like go towards you, and then it would go toward the other person and like get in their face, but you would just sit it there like it had a mind of its own. So we get back home, and me and my friends look up the active ingredient in this can of medicine from the 1800s. And guess what it is, y'all? The active ingredient was the active ingredient that the shaman was telling me about. Datura, Jimson weed. And my friend even mentioned it on the way up to this place. He mentioned it to us. So through some weird fucking coincidence, I ended up right at the right place in the right time to get some of the shit that you can make flying ointment out of. But, and also the reason I brought up the Salem witch trials thing is that witches used to use flying ointment as well. They would make flying ointment. So it's not just the Native American shamans that would make it. Witches would make it as well. So it was kind of like this rite of passage for me to find this plant. So me and my friends experimented around with it a little bit. And I started having these really intense astral projection experiences where I would leave my body and fly around and shit. And like I said, I possessed my fucking cat. And then my mom came into the room while I was astral projecting, and I could hear the thoughts going on in her mind. I could hear her inner monologue. So it's really cool. And that's why witches would do it. Witches would go around astral projecting, and they would actually go inside people's minds and hear their thoughts, or go into another room where that was a locked door and see beyond the locked door. You know, so that's some of my astral projections. San Andreas says, can you bust a ghost? Well, we've all seen the Ghostbusters movies. And, you know, you wonder, is there a way to bust a ghost? Can you kill something that's already dead? Here's one thing that doesn't work when you're trying to bust a ghost. All right? The Bible, holy water, crosses, all of these Christian relics that are famous for being used in exorcisms or in the movies to fight off vampires, that shit does not work. It doesn't work on ghosts. Doesn't work on demons, doesn't work on leprechauns or fairies or elves or any other extra-dimensional entities. Prayers don't work. The Bible doesn't work. The holy water doesn't work. A lot of these things that people assume are these great tools, these grand tools against ghosts or against demons, they really aren't. They really don't do shit. All right? If you're dealing with someone who's possessed and you start reading the Bible to them, the reason they go, is because they're fucking bored and they don't want to hear that shit no more. It's not that it actually has some mystical power over them that's going to repel them. But ghosts can move on in one way or another. And they can be aided in that transition in multitudes of different ways to transition to another realm. All right? But that usually involves technology. So, yeah. Rose Black says, I always wondered, what if the ghost is Hindu or something? Why would Christian symbols work on them? Yeah, I know. Yeah, and all this shit, these religious iconography of the cross and the holy water doesn't do anything. But I will admit, like, I'm repelled by that shit. I don't like seeing crosses, and I don't like being in churches. All right? If I walk into a church, I start getting like icky feelings and my throat starts itching. I start coughing. It's like I'm fucking allergic to it. And it's because one of the main reasons is I don't like seeing Jesus' dead, desecrated body on the cross all the fucking time. And I don't see how people who claim to love Jesus can actually sit there and celebrate his dead body on a cross and shit, you know? So, yeah. AW said, would you believe me if I said I saw a ghost standing in the entrance of an abandoned mine shaft? Yeah, I believe you. Look, I'm not someone to cast doubt on people who have seen ghosts or UFOs or any of that shit. And you know, honestly, I don't see why people consider themselves to be atheists, but they don't believe in aliens and they don't believe in ghosts. It's like I don't understand where the correlation is. Like, I guess an atheist might always think of being against Christianity and shit like that, but ghosts and aliens really have nothing to do with the notion of a god, or, you know, they don't require a god or a belief in a god for there to be aliens or ghosts. So I never really understood why a lot of atheists are predisposed to not believing in ghosts and not believing in aliens, because believing in aliens and believing in ghosts does not mean you believe in God or any kind of organized religion's version of reality. So AW, I believe it. I believe it. Now, the thing is, I told you earlier how the room disappeared on me. Well, I have reason to believe that someone died in this house, and there's actually still a few things that were originally here, so it could be, this house that I'm currently in could be very haunted as well. And people who live here have experienced many shadow people sightings and weird occurrences around this house. And stuff disappearing. Stuff disappearing is not necessarily generally a ghost trait. That's oftentimes more a mischievous entity trait, like you're dealing with a leprechaun or an elf or a fairy, when you have shit that just disappears out of nowhere and then it comes back miraculously in a weird spot. That's less likely to be a ghost and more likely to be an extra-dimensional entity like an elf or a troll. And yes, that is why internet trolls are known to have the characteristics that they do by definition, because of real-life trolls, actual extra-dimensional entities who are addicted to mischief. All right? Now, I am Loki, the god of mischief. You all know that. That's one of my thousands of names. And so I know all about the mischief. I know all about the trolls. There are extra-dimensional entities known as trolls who feed off of mischief. They feed off of playing pranks. They feed off of it. And generally, it's a benevolent kind of thing. It's not... There are some trolls that take it a bit far. But... So yeah, like I said, I can't explain away any of these things I've revealed tonight on the show as being one explanation or another. If you don't believe in fairies, they're the 420 fairy. See, I believe in fairies because they've revealed themselves to me. All right, and I have some fairies that are fans of mine that work with me. One of them being the 420 fairy. Now, the 420 fairy blesses me with marijuana when I need it. All right. So when my house burnt down, I was living with my grandma in that haunted house, and I would walk up to Walgreens, the store, to get her medicine at the pharmacy for her. And I would walk past this cemetery every time. And So I left the house and I was thinking to myself, wow, how cool would it be if I found a bag of weed just laying on the ground? How cool would that fucking be? And so I walk past the cemetery up to Walgreens, and I go to get her medicine, and I bring it up to the cash register to pay for it. And I look down, and what is sitting there but a nice big plastic bag full of some dank ass nugs. It was at least a quarter, a little, a little package of some weed, a package from the 420 ferry. I literally thought about it before I left my house of how great it would be, because I didn't have any, I lost my job and I didn't have any smokable at the time, so I was like, wow, it would really be nice to have that. And wouldn't it be cool if I found it? And yeah, I looked down and there it was. The 420 ferry has blessed me on many occasions. Most recently, on my birthday, I went to the local head shop to get a Delta 8 vape cartridge. Went there to buy a vape cart for Delta 8 on my birthday. And right where I parked, I looked down on the ground, and there's a brand new real vape cart. Brand new. Right there for me to pick up and put in my pocket. It's very nice. The 420 ferry smiles upon me. So, hell yeah, fairies do exist, y'all. Believe in it. Supernatural shit happens. You can't always designate what it is every time, but it happens. It fucking happens. So, on that frickin' note, that about wraps up the show. Throw a 111 in the chat if you enjoyed experiencing some of these ghost stories tonight. If you thought some of these ghost stories that you've heard tonight are kind of shocking. If you believe, because like I told you, it's completely true. So yeah, I welcome encounters. I welcome supernatural encounters. But sometimes they say if you don't look for magic, you'll never find it. And not everybody is willing to pay attention to the supernatural. Sometimes the supernatural really has to be bold to get people's attention. So, doesn't always happen. But hey, this has been a fun stream. Feel free to check out Patreon if you want to be a patron and support the show. Right now there's a episode of Leroy and Yolanda, episode 2, Patreon exclusive. One of the funniest live streams of history. You can see it now on Patreon. And I'm about to post a new post on Patreon with another classic episode of Evan Lefavor Live. So make sure to dig into Patreon, have some fun. Yeah. So, anyways, that is about it. God, did I forget about any fucking ghost encounters? I keep feeling like I'm forgetting something. I don't know. Is it over? Is the show over? Feeling lucky like I just got a 4-leaf clover? You know what I'm trying to say to you. Getting on the microphone, always fucking spraying to everyone listening about the ghost stories. It's time for me to go. I hope you've enjoyed the stories. But it's time for us to say goodnight. I hope you all are feeling just alright. Ooh-wee. Thanks for watching, y'all. See you next time. Ooh-wee. Ooh-wee. It's the ghost stories that are true. Ooh, ooh, ooh.
Ghost stories so true. Ooh, 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 to the we. Ghost stories, ghost stories, ghost stories. Supernatural satisfaction came in like a chain reaction. 111 entertainment, interactive entertainment. 111 Illuminati. Ooh, 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 wee. Boo. 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 Ghost stories. I hope you've all enjoyed these ghost stories. Ooh, ooh.